Grit is in you. It's in your passion, your perseverance. It's in every challenge you face and overcome. Grit is in you. It's never in rockin' protein. Never settle.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
First and foremost, they gotta love football. Like, if you don't love the game and have a natural curiosity to get better, it's not that we're not gonna get along, we're just not gonna mix, because I'm gonna ask more of you than you wanna give. And that just isn't a good recipe for success, just in anything in life, right? We have to have our values aligned there. So I'm looking for guys who are passionate about the game, first and foremost.
Student of the game comes from the mindset that decrees we will be genuinely curious, constantly evolving, obsessed with the process of learning and growing. I've often operated with the mindset that the game of football is constantly evolving, and we will either grow with it or become extinct. It is our expectation that we separate from those we have passed and to catch those that are still operating above us. This podcast offers a source for those that believe in constant evolution of their knowledge, individual craft, and overall intrigue in the game of football. Each of you can find one tool that can help improve your off-season process as you continuously become students of the game.
When you're separating from the military, no one tells you how hard it can be to get your civilian life up to speed. But with VA benefits, it doesn't have to be. From the VA home loan requiring no down payment, to the GI Bill covering tuition, books, and cost of living, to VA healthcare offering top-ranked, low-cost care designed specifically for veterans. All the support you need is at VA. I'm here telling every veteran because I wish someone had told me, get what you earned. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
Coaches, welcome into another episode of the Student of the Game podcast brought to you by the Coach and Coordinator Network. I have another up-and-coming Division III offensive coordinator here that I've followed from afar. I thought a couple times that we might get matched up against each other in the playoffs, but maybe luckily for us, we didn't get there to some of the success they're having. But a guy, again, I've been really big fan of the work from the outside, and we had enough crossover in recruiting throughout the years that I got to see their work. But that special guest today is Mason Espinosa, the OC at DePauw. Mason, we really appreciate you coming on here and excited to talk some ball with you.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm fired up. We're in the dog days of recruiting, so I'm fired up to talk some football.
Yeah, so we were just kind of talking off air, but I always like to outline the pathway to where you've gotten right now. And you guys are absolutely humming out there right now with what you guys have done over the last 3 to 5 years. Leading up to it, I know you're a good player yourself and have had some different stops to get to this point. Kind of outline for the listeners here, just starting with some of the playing days and then the early different positions you held as a coach that have gotten you to the point where you're at right now.
For sure, man. Yeah. So I graduated from Ohio Wesleyan in 2014. So I'm on year 10 and some change, which is crazy to think about. I feel like it was yesterday. So I played 4 years there from 2010 to 2014 when I graduated. When I got out of that, I was rookie minicamp with the Pittsburgh Steelers very, very briefly, and then kind of got into the arena football thing, played arena football for 7 or 8 years, depending on how you count COVID. I was fortunate to be a part of Arena Bowl Championship in Albany in 2019. So that was an absolute blast. I was doing that in the spring. So guys that don't know anything about arena football, it's in the spring. So in the fall, I would coach. And so I was 2 years. I was a GA at Defiance College. And then for 5 seasons, I coached at Denison University, which is also in DePauw's conference. So 3 years as a receivers coach, 2 years as a quarterbacks coach. COVID hit. I kind of called the offense during COVID there. That was my first kind of foray into play calling. And then from there, actually the offensive coordinator that was at Denison got the job at Worcester High School in Ohio. So I went with him. That was my first official offensive coordinator tag at Worcester High School as a Division II, kind of Northern Ohio. And then from there, DePauw University. So this will be season 4 for me. And in 10 years, it's been like 20 football seasons. It's been crazy, man. So just between playing and coaching, it's been a lot of fun. So I don't play anymore, right? Once I took DePauw, I'm just a coach now, but a lot of football games in a short amount of time. Best thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of reps and practices and film sessions, right? And I knew you were really prolific in college, but it's neat to hear that you kind of crossed it because we're talking about former Mount St. Joe quarterback Josh Taylor. He's playing over in Germany right now. It's his second season. He played in Finland. So it's kind of the same pathway, but the benefit of that, it's neat that you got to do multiple years in the Arena League.
Yeah.
And eventually had the championship type of success. So I'm sure some of that will cross over into what we're going to talk about. But one of the things like that always intrigues me, and I just call it like content accumulation or how you build your knowledge base throughout that. You're kind of layering, playing and coaching and working for a lot of different people throughout your process. I always try to think back to what were some of the tools? Obviously, playing is going to add to it, but some of the things you did along the way just to help build your offensive knowledge base. And I don't know, did you like watching NFL or FBS cut-ups or talking to particular people? I always think that's intriguing, just how guys that are putting out this high-level output are built their knowledge throughout the years.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, dude. And I'll be honest, I did not do a great job of it early, right? Like, dude, I thought, and I would play arena football for a bajillion years and I didn't have to worry about it. And it really, not until about halfway through my coaching kind of journey, particularly Denison, did I really start diving into. It's like, man, this is actually pretty cool. Football is one of the ultimate things of, you don't know what you don't know until you start learning. And the more you learn, the more you realize, like, man, I have no clue what I'm doing. So that was a lot of fun. I think layering kind of the arena background initially, because we were such a throw heavy offense when I was in college. And obviously the arena game is so throw heavy. I thought maybe that would make me a little bit different, right? Because in a world of there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? I wanted to kind of a little bit different. And then through that lens, like learning a lot of the run game from some of my mentors and learning that and kind of almost reverse engineering it like that has really kind of had a unique, I guess maybe my mind had a little bit of unique perspective there off play. It's been a lot of fun. So I've been really digging into it for probably since just right around COVID, a little bit before COVID. And I still don't feel like I've scratched the surface, man. Learning from guys like yourself, from my mentors, Coach Deeds, Coach Holter, everyone around. It's been a lot of fun kind of digging in.
Yeah, it's funny kind of hearing your journey because I was the same way. Even I got to be an OC at like 26 or 27. And I think we did good stuff. But you obviously, I look back and it's like, man, I didn't know anything. I think about the same point that you hit about what would be halfway in the journey that I'm currently in. I went from like recruiting, get the players, like almost like roll out the balls and like let these guys just go play, which is a great part to have it. But there was a point, right? We kind of hit some rough patches. Honestly, Nick Davis at Rose Holman was just beating me up. And I kind of just said, all right, I'm going to go all into understanding the scheme and how to really win games with scheme. And you got to have the players. But it's interesting how different things drive your focus. And I think the best ones, which I think you are one of them, they really find what they're about and how they're going to study and take their game to the next level, just like you did as a player, right? I mean, you had to do it in college and you did it in an arena. And you work with a great staff at DePauw. I mean, I think all the way from Coach Dietz, I mean, you guys have, I think, one of the better offensive line coaches at that level. I think another underrated gym. When it comes to whether it's DePauw or you, I'm really curious as to the offensive philosophy that you guys carry and some of the things that you truly believe in, just getting inside your brain is how you see the game. But I'd love to hear just a little bit about your philosophy on offensive football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess to kind of piggyback off your statement before we dive into, man, like what a blessing. It's almost like playing quarterback when you got really good players with you. It's that like, dude, I had the easiest job in the world. Like obviously Coach Dietz, our head coach, and he literally did my exact job for a decade. So being able to bounce stuff off him constantly is awesome. Coach Rutt is, I say this to everyone I can shake by their shoulders and tell, like, this dude is legit. He is the best offensive line coach in the country. I guarantee it. I'll put my money on anything. And then Coach Hyde just recently came to staff. He's our receivers coach. He has Division I experience. He's been his whole career as a defensive back. So it's been really cool. He's coached college. This is his first offensive experience. So it's been really cool kind of picking his brain of like, okay, dude, really, how hard is this, right? Maybe not schematically, but it's like, okay, dude, I'm running a post, I take an outside release, and I throw a vertical ball over the top. Like, how hard is that for a corner to turn in head and make a play? Like, is it as hard as I think or not? Some of that stuff. But I think us offensively, what we say, I guess, two really kind of our key components is a little bit what you said. First of all, we're a spread offense with a hardball mentality is what we say. So we're going to use formation and personnel, alignments, matchups, wherever we feel like we can gain an advantage on a defense. That's what we're going to do, right? It's our job as coaches to kind of build our knowledge base, to have answers to a million different things. But more importantly, it's our job every week to come in and keep it simple and to have a focused game plan for the kids so they're not thinking about a million things, right? Every week it might look a little bit different as far as, hey, we're going to be in a little more 12 personnel this week, or be in a little more 10 personnel, right? And they don't necessarily have to understand, right, necessarily, okay, we're doing it because this defense is doing this, right? And that kind of keeps the game simple for them. I think the other thing, though, that you kind of touched on there is, for us, man, is players, not plays. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic scheme. I wish there was. It'd be really cool if there was, right? We'd score every play and it would be 80 to 78, right? And it'd be arena football, which is near and dear to my heart, but they're just not, right? So I think for us, it's about, one, recruiting really hard and finding the right players, but most importantly, it's about player development, right? And maybe not even necessarily schematically, fundamentally, right? Like, I know Coach Rutt, our offensive line coach, comes to my head immediately. Like, what he puts on his day one practice sheet, he's literally doing it in the third round of the playoffs, the same thing. Kind of tying in a little bit to that hardball mentality is that we want to do what we do, right? And we're not going to let a defense really dictate to us what we can and can't run. It's our job as coaches to find unique and creative ways to do what we do at a really high level with a lot of window dressing. So they have to repair a million different ways, and it's simple for our guys. And so when you're always looking, I think, for that answer and what you can do to a defense there, you coach really hard fundamentally so that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're running this outbreaker, right, I got to have really good steps, really good footwork, really good timing. Doesn't matter who you're playing, right? If you don't execute properly, you're not going to complete the pass, or obviously, as you know, a million different examples of that. I think those are us, right, in a nutshell. Everything we do are kind of through those filters, as being us and letting our good players play, getting our good players the football. I think that's really what we're focusing on.
Which I think I can attest to. And I think it was the 23 season, you guys had a really good wide receiver. And I can't remember who the crossover film was with, but just putting you guys on there, I thought you guys did such a good job of creating different ways to isolate them at different levels of the football field. You could always tell what I've always known, and especially in this run you guys have had, but DePauw's always physical. You know what I mean? I think it probably helps you guys going against that defense every day, because
they're unreal, man.
Yeah, it's a heck of a defense. But I thought you guys did such a nice job of, you could tell you guys had a distinct vision, right? You had a really good player. I'm sure you had multiple good players, but just from my perspective, you had this kid special. And then throughout the course of playing the game, you were setting up different ways, which I always think is one of the things I look at. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to run effective offense, but guys that within their scheme can move people around, it always attracts me, because I think that you better have 4 or 5 of the kids like that if you're not going to move pieces around.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This is my pass game nerd, but knowing you had prolific college career, what passing tree are you off of? What did you guys do in college, and what do you carry with you now? If there's a specific tree, just out of my curiosity.
Yeah, I guess I hope this answers your question, but even back then and even into now, you're going to see I'm a big fan, and we're big fans of, I guess, whatever, maybe you call them split field concepts, maybe, of you're never going to see us typically, right? There's a couple exceptions, but run like a mirrored concept, run like hitch seam on both sides, run all that stuff. I just think tip in general, right, in football, something's not good on one side. There's a lot of times it's not good on the other. And then, well, now what do I do, coach, right? We're big fans of, and let's have our 1 high beater here. Here's your man answer. Here's your 2 high beater, right? Quarterback, I need you to stare at that backside safety. He's going to tell you the story, right? Based upon game plan, or maybe it's the front side safety. It's whatever it is, he's going to tell you the side of the field to go to. And then once you get to that side of the field, okay, who's in stress based upon the concept? Make that stress defender wrong. Or if you're a progression kind of guy, then progress through that. That's generally where, in my opinion, kind of we've seen the most success. And I know I was a big proponent of that when I was chucking the rock around. That's just how my brain works. I don't love not having answers, right? To me, I'd rather build in answers offensively and then coach our kids, coach our quarterbacks really hard to make sure they know all the answers and they have all the answers to the test, so that when Saturday comes around, I can hang out and let them have a good time on Saturday. And I'm up in the box having a good time just watching them like a fan.
No, I mean, I'm with you. And I think there's obviously multiple ways to do it. But to me, and obviously you played the position at a high level, but protecting the quarterbacks is more about the offensive line slowing down a rush, right? It's making sure that, because I'm with you, like you said, even generically, you go mirrored concept. Okay, what happens if the kid picks the wrong side and all of the routes are on the same time? Now what do we do, right? Yeah. And that's probably, like you, that keeps me up at night thinking about not giving that particular kid a way to solve problems,
Yeah.
right? And it takes, I'm sure for you, it takes a couple cycles of it to really understand putting your brain into someone else's brain. I think that's something that took me a little while because you did it at a high level. So your brain's operating on level 500, 600, and now you got to translate it to kids. You know the value in, and I don't know if you guys use this term, but like, I think you have to build systematically, no matter what you do, around the quarterback.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes gets overlooked. And it's just like, I don't care if, even if you decide you're going to throw it 15 to 20 times a game, right? That person is orchestrating the entire operation, right? And it's critical.
Like you're going to go as your quarterback goes. It doesn't matter what level of football, right? Like, dude, junior high, middle school, high school, college president, it doesn't matter. You go as your quarterback, especially in today's day and age. I mean, like even, you talk about trading over film. We did the same thing. Like the Taylor kid from MSJ that you talked, dude, he was so good. And he would you could tell that you guys were able to do so much because he had digested what you were trying to accomplish. And it's not about memorizing at that point. It's about, hey, what are we trying to accomplish here? And once he realizes what you're trying to accomplish, the world is your oyster because it's, hey, we're going to do this, right? Or we're on the sideline. We're going to adjust this. Here's why, right? And now that you got a guy that can understand the why, it's a cheat code. A senior quarterback, but especially one that's played a lot, is a cheat code because of that. So,
yeah. And I think that for him in particular, I don't know if you had the same point in your playing career, but what really took him from being a high-level athlete to what I would consider a high-level quarterback was understanding. Yeah, the thing to me that took him to the next level from being an athlete to a quarterback to me was understanding and really searching for the why of the concepts. And you had even mentioned it, right? And it's neat to see it from someone else's perspective. Like you could tell that he understood what we were trying to do, which then again, it just layers concepts on top of each other and you can do so much. With that said, when it comes to concepts, I'm always curious about this, especially someone with as many banked game reps and now coordinator reps. When you guys come out of spring, all right, and you've put your concepts on tape and you've gone through your install, what's your process from that point as far as evaluating the concepts, the said concepts, and then the bridge that gets you to, okay, we still feel like there's a gap in this part of our system that we need to go and find? I'm always really curious about how people kind of perceive that operation.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. So I guess for us, when we generally are coming out of the spring, right, when we've tried something new, there's something that we're missing, right? Or something that, maybe it's not always missing, like it's, hey, we got to find the better mousetrap. There's a better way to do this, right? I think it is for us simply as, hey, it's watching it. Was it effective? But also it's such a quarterback driven thing. Like sometimes I like talking to the dang quarterbacks, right? It's like, dude, I've never thrown this. We just drew this up on the board, right? Like, tell me, like, what was hard? What was difficult? What was good about it? What made you feel really good about it? And I think having that perspective a little bit, because as you know, maybe there's sometimes young guys where, man, they hit their back step and they just pick a guy and they rip it. And it looks like, man, that worked perfectly. We're going to run it. And it's like, well, he just kind of got lucky there, right? We went 1 for 9 the rest of the camp, right? So I think a little bit of that. We're really big on stat tracking, right? Especially in spring with quarterbacks and completion percentage, receivers with targets and catches, being able to maybe go back and look at days where, man, we completed the ball at 92% that day. What did we do? What did we install? What did we run? Versus, hey, we completed at 48%. What happened? Like what went on? Stuff like that I think is important to us. Coach Dietz, I got to give him a shout out. He bought me a mask camera, the ones I'm talking about, where I can put on the face mask. So that's cut out the middleman a little bit of being able to record Skelly and then put it on my phone. And like when I'm eating after practice, like I can watch and be like, man, I can't see. There's no way you can read that. Like I can't see anything. It's like, oh man, that's a great concept. Look how clean that is. It's just a little bit of everything, to tell you the truth. I think having the quarterback background helps there just because it's such a quarterback driven, especially when you get in spring and you're throwing a ton of Skelly, such a quarterback driven world. If he's not comfortable in it, it doesn't matter what I call. If he doesn't get to the right guy, it's irrelevant,
Absolutely. No, I think that's sometimes a missing piece of an evaluation process. Is we got this level, we had our guys on campus for that midsummer check-in this weekend. And literally just after we had done the team stuff is just getting with the quarterbacks and literally going through what you just said, like asking them. I have my own perceptions of breaking down the system and I've done all the numbers and every which way you could break something down, but just asking them their perceptions on rhythm and timing. And hey, does this actually time up? I know it does from my vantage point, but I'm not doing it. And I think that I'm sure you are as good as anyone of like throughout the season, game plan wise and third down calls and including your quarterback.
Have to. Yeah.
in that process, right? I remember reading Bruce Arians' book, and his process was, he'd have the quarterback, whoever it was, Carson Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger, they'd come in and he'd say, all right, put your 5 favorite concepts on the board for this week. And they'd put them on there. And he literally, I don't necessarily do this, but he said, those are the first 5 pass plays we're going to call in the game. And some guys, they're going to be running vertical shots. And it was more so to show them, I believe in your feedback.
Love it.
Great book, by the way, Quarterback Whisperer.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
So another thing I'm really curious about is installation process. And I've heard the air raid guys talk, and I've tried to usually ask some of the FBS guys like how they go about doing this. Now, do you guys have are you on a day count? I know like air raid guys, they say, okay, we're going to install it all in 3 days and then we're going to rinse and repeat. We have our own process that's a little bit more elongated by design. When it comes to an installation process, how do you guys go about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd love to hear yours after because I'm always searching for a better mousetrap there. But at least for us, we're heavily front loaded, right? So I guess when we're specifically talking fall camp, we'll generally have probably 75 to 80% of our offense in the first 5 days. Just because, again, right, we're trying to build a foundation of who we are, and every team's different. No matter who you have coming back, like just off the top of my head. 2022, for example, our number one run, without a doubt, tackle wrap, whatever you want to call it. We were really good at it. We had really athletic tackle. We were just built well for it. Our yards per carry was through the roof. We got to 23 and we tried to run it and we just weren't good at it, right? But we were really good inside zone. So we became an inside zone team. I think a lot of that develops early, right? You're going to figure out what you're good at, right? And you might put 80% of your offense in. You may end up only being good at 50% of it, but at least we know and we can build off that. And that may affect your install kind of later in camp as you know what to kind of layer. So we will do everything. Obviously, we still have some meat on the bone, particularly, right, kind of specific shots or specific red zone packages or stuff like that kind of late. But we are big believers in kind of putting it in early and one, get more reps at it. But two, let's develop an identity of who we are so we can get the maximum amount of reps by the time we get to the first week in September. We've run whatever our identity is this many times and someone else has to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think very similarly in the sense that the way I always try to illustrate it to our staff and the players is the first install for us. What I try to tell them is we should be able to take this and win multiple games on the front end of our schedule with this install, nice. Right? And I also look at it like these core concepts should show up hopefully we're playing in the playoffs, but they should show up on the back end of the season. Now, we probably are running them in different ways, or we've done what we need to. The one thing that I think that we've done that I can't even remember why we did this, but we started doing this at the Mount, is I look at installs. So if I think of an install, okay, here's our first install. I break it into 2 days, and I call it a 1A and a 1B, a 2A and a 2B. And what I try to do with that is, here's the base way to run said play. And we run that for that entire day. And then on the follow-up, when it's the B version of it, we now, okay, if it's seal inside zone, okay, now on day 2, we're going to split it. And we might take the base RPO and invert it. We might take the glance route and put it in the slot over here. We're running the same concept. We'll take our verts and we'll switch them. And so to me, with how sound the concepts are, nothing changes from a quarterback progression, but it's just our presentation.
Yeah.
And I think that has helped in 2 phases. It gives us 2 days to teach and rep dense concepts. Yeah. We believe our deep choice is going to answer a lot of problems, but it just needs reps. It needs stress tests. So that's one thing I think that and I can't remember why we did it. I used to try the 3-day, true 3-day install, which makes me nervous. I don't like moving on from something if it's not clean.
For sure.
Here's another thing on install I'm curious about, and it's kind of in that vein. And like you said, if it's something that you do, it's something that is a core part of what's going on in the operation. Have you ever paused? I call it pause. Have you ever paused an install? Like, hey, we did this on day 3 of camp, and man, it's just not right. It needs another day, but this other run or quick game is on the schedule. Have you ever stopped and said, nope, we're redoing it?
100%. In fact, maybe this is just my youth showing up, but we even got to the point where, particularly last year, we'll schedule, repeat days of not necessarily like, hey, on day 7, we're going to repeat day 2, but hey, day 2 happened. It wasn't good. We're redoing it. And we have a catch-up day on day 7. So we're going to bump everything back by a day. And now we're not behind, right? We're kind of building in hey, we're on average for these first 8 days, we're going to suck at one of them, right? We need to build one in. So if we need to redo it, we're not all of a sudden scrambling because we're behind all of a sudden, right? We've already kind of built in. It's like, hey, we're going to repeat one of these days. And that has been, even just that framing in your mind has helped of like, dude, it's okay. Like, especially if you got young guys that are trying to get it, it's like, okay, you don't have it yet. It's okay. We're going to do it again. Right. And we're not going to be behind. We're still going to have our offense in by week 1. Like, it's going to be okay.
That's really a great idea, because I've done pauses on, like, you do it and you tell the staff, we're going to push this install. But I like having that built-in day. That's really, because then it takes some like anxiety away of like, oh, how are we going to get it all in? But if it's already scheduled, and if it's like you said, if it's day 7, you might be able to pick and pull a couple things from each install and say, okay, hey, here's our repeat day. This is what we're going to, you know what I mean? And have a couple little nuggets from each thing.
Sure. Especially, exactly. If you're not like, if there wasn't a day you feel like you need to repeat, you feel like you kept going, well, now you just have a built-in day to kind of reintroduce whatever you feel like you want to work on.
I love it. That's really good. I think I'm going to add that in there.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
So from a teaching perspective, and I'm really curious about this just from you playing, and let's just talk like quarterback specific here. Your teaching methodology when it comes to the quarterbacks, and let's really put ourselves in fall camp when it's the stress is on. We know we got to play in a couple weeks, right? Especially D3, you're going to play some football.
2.5 weeks, man. Let's line it up and play some football.
Is we're going to do this thing. So talk to me just about process-wise and some of the different steps that you have, and maybe take us from classroom to how it gets presented on the field, and then how you follow up with the film work.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess typically for any install, I'm always going to give the quarterbacks a sneak peek, right? Specifically, when I'm talking quarterbacks, I'm going to send them the install. They're going to have the install schedule. I don't really care. It's not top secret, right? Like it's not nuclear codes. If anyone needs to know the install, they need to know the install. So they're going to have the install schedule. They're going to know what's coming. And on top of it, I'm going to put in the group message like, hey, day 3, here's what we're installing today. As you know, any good quarterback is going to be looking at that beforehand, right? They're not going to come into the meeting room and it's the first time they've seen it, right? They're going to have that natural, probably positive anxiety to kind of dig into it and get ahead. So I think that does help a lot there. Once we get into the meeting room, in the past, I've had quarterbacks and receivers. So typically I keep that receiver meeting short and sweet, about 30 minutes, and get them out of there. And then quarterbacks, we're just going to grind, man. Fortunately now, right, we now have a receivers coach, which is maybe the coolest thing in the history of the world. So now I hope my quarterbacks are watching this, man. We need to just get in there and get dirty, man, get grind. It's going to be good. So it goes from that, right? And then we get on the field, walkthrough, right? Like we're a big walkthrough team, especially with as veteran as we've been over the last couple of years. Being able to, it's one thing to see it on the board, it's one thing to see it on film, right? You're going to see it on film during the install. But being able to see it from your perspective, I think is a whole new challenge of like, okay, I'm looking at this guy, or I'm looking at this guy, or hey, I'm checking away from the 3 technique. Well, coach, you told me it's outside shoulder of the guard, but I need to see what a 3 technique is. I need to physically verbalize to the people up front, right? From that, your indie period is all about what your install is, right? I'm not a big guy of that's like, hey, we're going to do everyday drills. I think maybe receiver-wise or offensive line-wise, you can have those. I think quarterbacks, like there's so many things to work on. I'd rather get really good at what we're working on. And then from there, you get into RVAs, you get into Skelly. It all kind of builds to that team moment. So by the time we're running team, hopefully you've learned it, you've watched it, you've repped it in a slow, controlled setting. You've done it in Indy, you've done it in Skelly. Okay, let's just put big bodies in front of you now and let's do the same thing. And there isn't as much of that barrier of, hey, it's your first time doing it. Well, is it? Kind of, but not really. That progression quarterback-wise, the more times you can kind of, in my opinion, beat in their head what you're doing, the more they're going to digest it and the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, I'm the same as a coach. I want as many reps on, honestly, like teaching it, visualizing it,
for sure,
trying to break it as possible. And I don't think I knew that as a young guy. And to me anymore, like I like doing the clinic circuit, and obviously like there's benefits that come from it. But to me, anytime you clinic with anyone, to me, it's a practice reps for teaching our stuff
like that.
And usually you put it in front of enough, sharp people at from any level, from high school to college. and their questions are going to lead you to new discoveries or needed discoveries. Okay, there's a gap in knowledge in this aspect of it. I need to make sure that I have that answer and it's been thought through. So that to me is the same as quarterback play. And another thing you mentioned is walkthroughs. I'm a humongous walkthrough proponent. Yeah. I love walkthroughs of all shapes and sizes. Do you guys have multiple versions of a walkthrough? So, meaning okay, you're walking through concepts, throughout the weekdays, and then maybe your, I don't know how you guys practice, but either your Thursday or Friday, your last kind of lead up day. And if so, what does a good walkthrough look like to you?
That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that, but I do have an answer because now you're getting me fired up because I'm thinking about the season. So early in the week, at least for us, we're talking pre-practice walkthrough is very introductory level, right? Specifically if we're playing, not everyone plays our defense, right? Not everyone has different defensive structures. So especially early in that week before practice, I'm just a big fan. Dude, let's line up the defense. And I don't care if it takes the whole time, the whole 10 or 15 minutes, let's line them up exactly what we're seeing on film. Okay, quarterback, now you can see it on the field. Here's why we're attacking them like this. And sometimes as simple as there's too many people this way. We need to go this way, right? And, keeping it simple for them like that's what it would look like early as we install, right? Installation days. Obviously, we're going to go through our installation with the walkthrough, but also give them all the what ifs, right? Hey, if we're checking something at the line, right, I'm going to give them all three ways that they're going to do it. So to make sure, if nothing else, they verbalized the check or whatever it is, or they've made the adjustment at least once or twice or three times before we get to the team rep. Later in the week is when it gets really fun, in my opinion.
Yes.
We get to Friday walkthroughs, for example, day before the game. Man, that's final exam time. And it's literally just, I'll have my script 10, script 15 printed out. I'll have call sheet printed out. And we'll just pump through a game, and I'll actually a lot of times I'll go through and script, particularly if it's a difficult defense. I'll script hey, what do I want to see against this play? It's quiz time. I'm not going to say anything. We're going to call it. Our offensive line coach, Coach Rutt, stands behind our quarterback, and he's the puppet master. Everyone, the offense looks that way, and he's pointing all this different direction. And it's just seeing, do you know what the heck we're looking at, right? And if you're getting all your checks and getting all your adjustments from everybody, all 11 that are playing, we feel really good about it. We're in a really good place. So that's probably the most difficult one, but that's the most fun one to me. It's dude, how locked in are we? Do we feel really good about this game plan? And if we're missing checks left and right, well, man, we better fix something. We got 24 hours to fix it. On my end, I got to simplify over the next 24 hours, right? Their work is done. That maybe is an anxiety reliever for me as much as anyone. And then when we're on the road or even the morning of walkthroughs, I joke with my brother all the time, who I don't know if you know or not, but if there's a Venn diagram, is that what they're called, right? The diagram that crosses each other. I didn't go to DePauw if you couldn't tell. If there's a Venn diagram of arena football and Division III football, it's hotel parking lot walkthroughs.
Amen. The best.
Hotel parking lot walkthrough at 9 p.m. with cars driving by you. If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what does. So
in small towns, colder than hell.
Dude, so cold. And it's just your left guard's looking at you Coach, I know how to run counter. What are we doing? Right. But it's just a confidence thing, right? The last one to me is just pure confidence. You don't play good football unless you're confident, especially at the quarterback position. But every position, dude, let's just pump them with confidence. Let's give them the looks we know we're going to get. And let's get them feeling really good. So by the time we get to Saturday at 1, they feel like they can beat the New England Patriots.
I freaking love it, man. Well, for not having that, and I'm going to give shout out. That was Keith Grabowski's question. We had gone over how do we make the second season better, and he's like, I want to hear what people think of walkthroughs, and I'm like, that's a great question, and just your juice and passion for it. Shows me you're all about it like I am, but great answer. To me, I love that Friday one too. That's a big one. What I did, it was my last year at the Mount. It was really in my head. I didn't put it on the rest of the people. Obviously they knew what we were working on, but I tried to simulate drives.
Nice.
In my head. So I tried to simulate mechanics of subbing, and I think it naturally got us to, hey, here's a P and 10 call, and here's your second and on time call. And I would go, hey, it's 3rd and 5. And then I would call the play. But a lot of it was in my own brain, just of the flow that should occur, right? That was a pretty good, addition to, because I have a similar outlook to you. There's multiple different walkthroughs that occur in the course of a week or different parts of the season. But the Friday one, I tried to put myself just as much as the kids on task to like, all right, really think about, hey, here's a situation and what are you calling? Can you get it off the top of your head? Like, when do you need the call sheet and when is it coming to you naturally?
Love it.
That's really, really good answer. All right. So something else that popped in my brain. It's not on the script I sent you, but I'm just curious. When it comes to evaluating and recruiting quarterbacks, what are the characteristics? And obviously I want to hear the physical ones, but what are the non-physical characteristics that are like, just this kid's got to have this or it's not going to work?
For sure. First and foremost, they got to love football. I hope it's coming through the screen. I don't know if it is or not, but dude, I love
You're fired up, Coach. I love it.
Like if you just don't love the game and have a natural curiosity to get better, it's not that we're not going to get along. We're just not going to mix because I'm going to ask more of you than you want to give. And that just isn't a good recipe for success, just in anything in life, right? We have to have our values aligned there. So I'm looking for guys who are passionate about the game, first and foremost. I think my favorite metaphor, and I don't know where I heard it, it was a while ago, but I want guys that are the thermostat, not the thermometer, just in life, right? Like when you come into a room, are you a reflection of the temperature of the room or are you setting the temperature of the room? And I want guys that it doesn't matter if they're walking into Walmart on a Wednesday evening or they're at halftime of the national championship. When they walk in the room, they set the temperature. Maybe not even, they don't have to be Ray Lewis. They don't have to kick down the door and do crazy, right? And if that's you, awesome. But you have to have respect from your teammates, right? They have to know that you care. Right. And they have to have, I guess that's probably the best word, like situational respect of you, that you're always going to do what's best for the team in any situation. Non-physically, I think that's important because then you have your leader. And once you have your leader, then a lot of things kind of fall into place. And it's really hard to coach football when your quarterback's not your leader. So
I agree with that. I love that's, I had a good inkling that you would have that, but the passion of the game, like that, and I always tell people like passion, you don't have to define it. Like that's what, like you talking about a walkthrough like that, like the content of what you're saying was legit, but your body language changed. And I'm like, I hope Keith puts the video out because like that's my type of dude, right? And that's what I'm looking for a quarterback, but that's the type of dudes that I get along with in this profession, just guys that just love everything about it. And so I can value that too. This is another one that was not on the thing, but I always like to ask this, and kind of goes back to, obviously we're in the recruiting phase, but you're in this off-season summer build towards this training camp install and the schedule and all that. How much in an off-season do you study yourself versus looking at other teams' films? So I don't know if you have like FBS teams you like to watch or pro teams or anything like that, but like how much of that do you try to correlate to each other?
That's a great question. At least when we're watching offensive football, we're going to watch a lot of us, right? Even as we're looking at maybe opposing defenses and getting ahead like everyone in the country does, right? We're naturally going to pop on our game as long as it's same coordinators, initially before we start taking notes. I think one thing that I've become really passionate about, I guess, and it's nothing more than it feels like I'm scratching my brain, is I love watching and studying defensive coordinators, defensive people. I'll be honest, like I was talking about Coach Hyde earlier, our receivers coach. He was like an All-American corner. He coached defensive backs at Kenyon, Indiana Wesleyan, Western Michigan. Now he's coming over to offense. Like I'm so envious of that, right? To be able to know how each side works, where I've played quarterback, I've coached offense, really every position with the offensive line, at this point kind of, but I've never coached defense. And I feel like I know how to, at least I feel like I generally know what I'm looking at, know how to attack it, but I want to hear it from their perspective.
Yes.
Right. So that I can genuinely understand, like, dude, what keeps them up at night? What are their stressors? Right. And there's a lot of stuff that you'll hear that it's like, man, I didn't even consider that. Right. Like that's keeping that guy up at night. And that wasn't even in my thought process. And it doesn't always have to be immediately implemented in your system. Right. It's like, well, that just doesn't fit us. But how can we take that, knowing that, and how can we expand on that by doing what we do? And I think just learning very simple stuff about defenses, it's one of those things. It's like, dude, the more you learn, the more you don't know. There's stuff in there that like, dude, first, second year defensive coaches say, and I'm like, that's freaking brilliant. Like
Absolutely.
like that's paradigm shifting. So you're getting me going again, but
no, that's good.
That's been a big thing for me over the last year and a half or so, is studying defensive people and listening to them talk. And it's been such a dramatic shift in my brain there. It's been really, really fun.
I'm like you because it's, kind of similar pathways of just kind of when you became like really scheme focused, same about point in my career. And then the same thing happened of wanting to learn from the defense. Some of the number one principles that I carry for offensive football came from the perspective of defensive
100%.
coaches. And it's so, like you said, I was like, okay, I did not know that at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've been calling offense for a handful of years, and I work for a defensive head coach now. And just even going through the spring process of, we're installing this system and hearing their vantage point of different things that, and what I would basically, like some of the main questions I'd come out of there is, does this idea that I have actually challenge you as much as I think it does?
Yeah.
And they can cut some of that fat there of like, okay, because basically I was like, I don't want to waste my time going down this rabbit hole if it doesn't have the ROI that I think it's going to, right? And so like, I think that's a great point. And I think that really where it's a breakthrough for me is like really learning coverage match and fit rules and then how to break them. That to me, like changed my whole perception of like what we're building from a coordinator's perspective. Another one that I like to ask, I didn't have it on our script, but I like this one too. From the perspective of seeing your trajectory and the trajectory in line with what you guys have done at DePauw, you've had really good teams pretty much, since you've been there. But I think, last year you saw it all culminate.
Yeah.
What are some of the things, and maybe applied to you? How did it keep climbing? That's what I'm always, because you guys you've all done a great job, but it's continuously gotten better. Are there some principles when it comes to the offense that you think were really key pieces that helped lead to this, last year was just hyper impressive of what you guys were doing as a program, but I was, we're obviously focused on the offensive piece.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Dude, I wish I had a really cool answer. And it's just, dude, as our players, man, they took so much ownership into being the best they could be, into getting the most out of their experience. It was irresponsible of me not to pour everything that I had into it for them, right? And at the end of the day, it's about getting your best players the football, man. And there was everything that we did. We had, like you said, I think I know the young man that you're talking about, the really talented receiver. We were really fortunate to have a couple of them. One of them is going to be a senior. He set the conference record for touchdown receptions last year. He had 21 in the regular season.
Not bad.
We had another young man who was a consensus All-American who's playing professionally in Finland right now. Like, we had a couple really, really talented, really special ones. And it's like, dude, just sometimes I get so caught up in like, man, I want to do this. Is really cool. I saw it here. I saw them do it. It's like, dude, don't overthink it. That kid's really good. Find a way to get him the football. And he's going to make you look really good. And I think there was us as an entire coaching staff, that was kind of our thought process of, man, we have a chance to be really special here. Let's make sure that we're doing our justice by them, to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure they're in the best situation. And then at the end of the day, man, let them play with a ton of confidence and get the good players the football.
Sometimes simple's the best, you know what I mean? Like, it always, it's definitely an oversimplification, but I go, man, football is not as complicated as some people make it, right? Like, let's keep this thing to the point and let these kids, let them play. That's what I tried to, like, I want to see you play on Saturday, not me coach. You know what I mean? Like, this is not about me. I'm setting the table for you, and then you guys do your thing.
That's it.
What from you and your first moment at DePauw, right? And your personal development, where have you seen the biggest growth in yourself in that coordinator role over these last 4 years as the team just continues to impress and play deep in the playoffs and have high level offensive outputs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think personally for me, like looking back from 2022 when I started to where I am now, I feel like almost like that was a different like I was just, dude, I'm just hanging on by the seat of my pants back then, like trying to just make sure we have a sound game plan, right? And I feel, and it's studying, like I remember watching the MSJ stuff and thinking you guys did an excellent job at it, watching other teams do it. I think what I've really tried to focus on the last year to 2 years is, dude, don't be afraid of stuff that you don't know about. Like, I think, again, we're on, so I'm not afraid to say it. Dude, I think you do an excellent job. You guys had a number 0 at MSJ that was, oh my God, he was so good.
Cornell.
Dude, and you just put him everywhere. Like, there are no rules. You put him everywhere, right? And he was a mismatch anywhere. I thought you did an excellent job of formation of boundary stuff. And it's stuff like that that's like, you know what? I don't have a ton of experience in formation of boundary, right? When I played, we didn't do it. When I coached at my other stops, we didn't do it, right? But that doesn't mean it's not good. It just doesn't mean I don't know anything about it. So, dude, let's learn about it and let's see how it fits us. Just because it's really good doesn't mean we have to run it. But if there's something that's easy to implement that fits what we do, that fits what our players do really well, let's try it and let's do it. And let's see how if it's as good as I think it could be. And I think that has been where maybe me personally, I think I've made the most strides of being able to have people around me that I have enough confidence in, enough trust in to push me out of my comfort zone where, we're talking about something and Coach Rutt's like, well, why don't we do it like this? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Let's try it. I'm in. Like, let's try it. And I think that is where, I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, that's great.
I think that's where it's been for me.
That's awesome to hear about. And I think it's like the term that one of my non-coaching buddies gave me one time is like, you're just genuinely curious about this football. Cause I'm like you, like, I want to know everything. And like, it's impossible to know everything, but it's like, I just want to hear. And that's kind of, bringing it full circles. Like, that's what drew me to you is like, I think, okay, I love Division III football. I love the landscape. We were in the same region as coaches. And then just seeing the success, I want to see what other good teams and smart people are doing. That's just what I like to do. And think that I agree with you. I think, and it's awesome that has been what your biggest growth is as long as you just continue to ask questions and seek to find out what's going on. Like you said, you're not taking everything from any person that you watch. But you'll find a nugget in there.
Yeah.
And you never know when that idea is A, going to hit your brain and spawn.
Yeah.
But B, when in an important moment for you.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about formation in the boundary is if you watch the first 5 years of my career, we didn't do it. So the way that came to us is our DC at the Mount would go down and work the camps at Alabama when Saban was there.
Yeah.
And and then he would clinic with them in between. And I told when he started doing that, I said, I need you to ask him one question for me. What in modern football right now stresses out the Alabama defense the most?
Nice.
And he would come back with the answer, right? And he would keep it like, hey, the first year is formation in the boundary. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do what you did. I'm going to see what this is. I don't know what it is. And then it turned into this thing where now it's like, okay, 4 years later, it's like, it's just part of it. And it was funny last year at St. Thomas, I was with a bunch of guys that didn't really know me, and I would script something. They're like, do you want this formation in the boundary? I'm like, if it is formation in the boundary, I want formation in the boundary. You don't ever have to ask. I love me some formation. So it's just funny how those things work. But that was a thing I didn't know anything about either. Yeah. So that's cool. That's kind of how it is. And kind of want to end with this one. When you're thinking back to your path, talking about your journey, what's a piece of advice you'd give to young guys that have, aspirations, and maybe they're on both sides of the ball, but, just young guys that, hey, I want to be an offensive coordinator one day, and they're in the early phases of this process. What's something that you would give them just from your journey?
I just think and maybe it ties back in, and maybe it's just on my brain because what we're talking about is do never stop being curious, right? Just because you played somewhere or you work from somebody that does it one way, right? You can have your own reason for doing things that may not be exactly a carbon copy of what someone else was, right? But that doesn't mean anything's better or worse. It's a different way. So the more you can learn, the more you're curious about things, the more you realize the why of why people are doing it, you can find out what you really believe in, right? There's stuff that I hear all the time, that's all the time, but I get why they're doing it. I don't believe in it. I don't think that's just not for us, right? And that's okay too, right? But if you know why, you never know where stuff like that's going to pop up. And so that when you do have that first job, when you're nervous and you don't know what the first play of your freaking coordinator career is going to be called, like, you have some confidence that you have an identity, right? Because just as much as your team, your offense has to have an identity, you have to have an identity of stuff that you believe in and you'll stand on the table for and you'll live or die with. And I think if you spend your younger years maybe a little bit differently than I did and really investing and listening to other people, you'll have a much easier transition than I did, right? I would say. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what kind of popped.
No, Coach, just like that answer and the rest of these, this has been extremely awesome. I've kind of, put it out here. I mean, it's the first time that we've ever really talked. We texted a couple times to set this up, but I mean it, and I like to put it out there on air. So like the amount of respect that I have for what you guys are doing as a collective, but also from afar studying you and watching and seeing a lot of the things that you guys are doing. I keep a heavy eye on just especially D3 coordinators, because that's my background. And I think that you're one of them at the top. I think the ceiling's very high. It sounds like, really finding another level to your own game too, which is even better for what I was kind of thinking. And then just talking to you, man, like the passion's there, the intrigue's there. I could see why and where a lot of the success, comes from. So I really appreciate us getting to be able to do this formally and put it out there. But it's been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. Again, like we're in the same region for, a few years, and being able to, we had a couple crossover games, and being able to watch it's always an offense I've admired of yours as well. And I'm glad we've been able to do this. So I really appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely, man. We'll keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you again for listening to the Coach and Coordinator podcast. As you've noticed, we now have a series of podcasts on the Coach and Coordinator Network. We're really excited about this series approach and what each different host brings to us. Plus, we have some roundtables, which essentially are hostless podcasts, starting with Think Tank. We recorded that first Think Tank with Dan Gonzalez, Dub Maddox, and Josh Herring, and I'll tell you, it was so detailed and so good in what they put into it. I know you're going to enjoy that series as well as all the other series we have on the Coach and Coordinator Network. Be sure to follow all of our sponsors currently that Signature Championship rings, Modern Football Technology, and Titan GPS. Check out our 10% toolkit, where we highlight all of our partners and what they have available to you, as well as some special offers. The link to that is in the show notes. Check out our enhanced show notes at coachandcoordinator.com. We'll be adding content that works better on video or as a download. And follow us on X at Coach K Grabowski.